And we are live. I am so glad you're here. We've got a great show for you today. Everything's moving really quickly. Um, let's dig into it. Grab your coffee, grab something to write with. I'm looking forward to those questions at the round table at the end of the show. Let's do this. Gordon, good morning, friends. I hope your coffee is as good as mine. I want to start out the show by talking about the folks in Florida. With Hurricane Idalia is bearing down on Florida right now. It is a disaster, folks. A lot of folks did not leave, did not evacuate, and that is in no small part due to the fact that Florida has no real leadership right now. I mean, Ron DeSantis doesn't inspire anyone. His press conference yesterday was, I don't even know the right word for it. You've got to have faith in your leaders. They've got to inspire. They've got to be able to lead. And Ron DeSantis can't. He can't. He is just done. We have a lot of folks from the show that are in Florida. A lot of folks that watch the show that are in Florida. A lot of Texas Paul potheads. I was in contact with some of them, and a couple of them have decided to hunker down, and I hope they're doing okay. I hope they're doing okay. We've got some images. The Cedar Key Fire and Rescue has done an amazing job. And you're going to have to be patient with me today, folks. We're going to have a lot of slides in today's show because we're going to get into Enrique Tarrio and the sentencing that's happening today, a little bit on Mark Meadows. It's going to be a good show, so hang out with us. So far, the images coming in from Cedar Key have been about what you'd expect for a Category 3 hurricane. A lot of storm surge, a lot of damage. Cedar Key Fire and Rescue has really done an amazing job sharing images with people. They had some video um, of the flooding. You see the storm surge is in areas is well over 3 feet. As you can see, looking at these houses, I mean, it's above the front porches, and these houses, there are stairs going up to the porches. Those porches aren't at yard level. I mean, this water's 3, 4 feet deep in places. You see the church here with the water level is just amazingly high, and it's expected to continue to rise. So, folks, please, I'm begging you. I am begging you. Please be safe. Please take care of yourself. Let us know you're okay. Like I said, some of our fellow potheads have decided to ride it out, and fortunately, Idalia didn't spin up to the category 4 that we thought it might. It got close. It got very close. And there's going to be a lot of flooding, a lot of people hurt by this. And unfortunately, and I don't mean to politicize everything, but damn it, you've got to have leadership. This is what government does. Government is to do things that we cannot do for ourselves. And folks, you cannot recover from a hurricane by yourself. You cannot rebuild your little town by yourself. You cannot restore power. You cannot restore clean drinking water. You can't do it. That's what government is for. We have to stop electing people like Ron DeSantis. He's no leader. Republicans, they got that damn charity. Their disaster response is a frickin' charity. I just people time for stupidity and time for these experiments and well, let's try charities for disaster response. That's over. It's over, folks. It's time to get back to business. I wish everybody in Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas, this is going to continue on to be a real flooding disaster for a long, long, long time to come. Well, today was supposed to be sentencing for a couple of Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio and Ethan Nordine, but that's been uh, um, postponed at last minute. They've had an emergency. They haven't told us exactly what the emergency is. They said they'll share it with us when they get more information. Reuters shared this image. We've got that. This is Enrique Tarrio. I don't know why we call him Enrique. His mother calls him Henry. Henry Tarrio, Enrique Tarrio. This is him leaving the jail. They're sitting in jail right now, waiting sentencing. He was being transported from jail to the courthouse. Oh, look, he's wearing a mask. Hmm. Doesn't look like such a tough guy there, does he? Like I said, we're going to have lots of slides today. Thank you for the support. I appreciate you. And by the way, just a little side note for the folks that are supporting the show. I really appreciate you. I really do. You paid for a Buzzsprout subscription. I got a little bit of an announcement. We're actually building. We're uploading the cover art for the podcast. We're going to be moving to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. If there's any particular platforms that you folks would like to see our podcast go out on, let us know. We're setting it all up right now, and I appreciate the support. Y'all paid for the subscriptions. Y'all made it happen. This is Ethan Nordine. He was supposed to be sentenced this afternoon. Also, his sentencing hearing's been canceled. We have Mrs. Texas Paul that's just glued to the news right now, trying to find out exactly what that emergency was. We don't know. The judge may have had an illness. He could be someone called in a threat. It could be, we don't know. We don't know. They haven't told us. All they told us is that the sentencing for today has been canceled, and that's it. That's it. We've had an emergency. When we get confirmed what's going on exactly, there are things going around all over social media like it does, folks. Social media is wonderful. It is wonderful. It really is. But just take your time. Come to a good source. I'm not going to tell you what the emergency is until they tell us what the emergency is. When they tell us what the emergency is, I'll let you know. I'll let you, and you'll know because we'll all be saying it. I don't race for scoops, but I want you to have good information. I want you to have good information. But we're going to talk about Enrique Tarrio anyways, and his fellow co-conspirators. Uh, like I said, Terrio and Nordine were supposed to be sentenced today. They're going to be sentenced in the next few days. Peter Campbell says, thanks for the information. I use dog catcher for my podcast. Glad to know it. Glad to know it. Glad to hear it. We can list on dozens of podcasts. That's why I like Buzzsprout. It's a great service. Um, it's not cheap. Don't get me wrong. It's not cheap, but it's worth it. We can actually upload a month's worth of podcasts, no problem, and they'll disseminate them to Twitch, to, like I say, dog catcher spot, anywhere we want them to go. So let us know, folks. But also sentenced this week is Joe Biggs. Joe Biggs was the guy that had the mic in hand during the January 6th uh, insurrection. He's also very much beloved by my governor, Greg Abbott, as seen here at this photograph of, them clutching. These Republicans just love them some terrorists, man. They just love them some terrorists. Joe Biggs is a sorry ass individual. Zachary Rail from Philly. Yeah, I'm calling it Philly, and I know they hate that, but Zachary Rail, I hate him. So we got Zachary Rail. Look at this specimen. Oh man, I tell you what. There's your Ubermensch right there. I'm telling you. Nothing says supremacist like middies. I mean, really, folks, these people are just garbage. iHeartRadio is on the list. Absolutely. I appreciate that. Bridget McKinney says iHeartRadio in Arizona. Yeah, iHeartRadio is a big one. It is. It. We're definitely going to be putting the podcast out on iHeartRadio, so you'll be able to listen to us in the car. And then we've got Dominic Pizzola. Is the other one being sentenced? You'll remember this winner. Washington Post shared this video. This is Dominic Pizzola. Helped attack a police officer in the crowd, took his shield, and then went on to bash in a window at our Capitol and usher people in where he and Joe Biggs ushered the crowd through. Whereas, they went on to piss and crap all over our Capitol, destroy it. That's Dominic Pizzola. He's going to be sentenced this week also. Yogi Pretzel says, "What a rat." Wasn't quite done with that one yet. Good morning, Sardine. I appreciate the support. I really do. I thank you. And thank you, RV Davey. I appreciate that. I really do. I love your channel, and I'm praying for Ukraine. Now that you bring up Ukraine, I don't have a segment on Ukraine today, but I am going to give you a little bit of an update. I showed you the map where Russia's fortifications were uh, around a little village. It's just a little village. It's just a cluster of buildings of a town called Robotnia. They ran from the reservoir on the Dnieper east. They were able to break through in Robotnia, and they're heading south. The Russians in Takhmuk, which is the next little town down, and these Ukrainians are so brave. They are so brave. If it isn't fortified, if it isn't a dug trench, it's mined. The Russians have just dumped mines from everywhere, all over Ukraine's farmland there. They have just dumped and that's what they're fighting in is fields, open fields. They've just dump trucks worth of mines they've put out, and they're making their way south. The Russians have started to flee from Takhmuk, which is the next town before Melitopol. And Melitopol is going to be some more vicious fighting. The line of fortifications that were built in, there's another line down by Melitopol that they're going to have to overcome, and just pray for them. It's going to be, if you pray, because this is World War One trench style fighting, folks. And the Ukrainians have they're blazing southward. The Russians have been fleeing out of Takhmuk. The Russians control the highways south, so they've been fleeing out of Takhmuk as fast as they possibly can. But the Ukrainians can't advance, storm forward because there are mines everywhere. They have to demine their way south. Just pray for them, folks. They want to be free. They're gonna be free. Foggy Ozark, man. I appreciate the support. Always here. Good man. Mark Wagner. Thank you, brother. That's a lot of support. I appreciate you, my friend. Y'all have taken care of us. We're going on Buzzsprout because of you. Thank you, folks. Building the audience and putting the message out. So let's talk about Enrique Tarrio and how we got here, because there's a lot of responsibility beyond these idiots that I just showed you. This didn't happen in a vacuum, folks. And I like to give you the background information. And let's do a post-mortem on what we did wrong so that we can stop this. Enrique Tarrio, other than life as a petty criminal, had a fairly insignificant existence. Back in 2012, he was busted. He ended up doing 30 months in federal prison. He's used to prison. 30 months is pretty good. And that's almost 3 years. That's a long time to spend behind bars. He got sent because he was busted as part of a scheme. I don't know if you've seen the stories that we've done on Midas Touch Media in the past about the shoplifting groups that just are all over, mostly in the South here. But it's not your average person going into like a Walgreens or a CVS or whatever and just stealing an item and leaving. No, there are professional shoplifters, and they act inconspicuous when they first get there. They'll pull into the parking lot like any other customer, and they'll walk in and they'll grab a cart. A couple of them will grab carts, and they will walk into the CVS, and then they will find expensive items that they can resell, because this is what they are. They're professional resellers, thieves and resellers. And they will just stick their arm onto a shelf and just empty it into the basket, trash it down, and run for the door. Where somebody will be waiting with the vehicle for them to just dump everything into the vehicle and haul ass. Then they take those stolen goods. In this case, he was busted with diabetic test strips. If you've got type 2, type 1 or type 2 diabetes, you know what a test strip is. It's where you prick your finger, get a little blood, put it in a glucose monitor, and then touch it. Well, they were taking stolen test strips and relabeling them and reselling them to bodegas and stuff all over Miami and Florida. He got busted for that and did 30 months. But Enrique Tarrio is a rat. He is a cooperator. According to his attorney, he's a prolific cooperator. And in the hearing yesterday, when we had victim impact statements, that's the argument that his attorney made again. You got to remember, my guy might have been a bad guy, but there's another side to him. He's a rat too, you know. And boy, howdy is he. He was able to inform on all of the people in the organization where they were involved in this one scheme. And he was able to help the feds bust an anabolic steroids and an illegal anabolic steroids trafficking ring, a gambling organization, a human smuggling organization. He actually was able through his they actually wired him up, folks. They wired him up. He was actually able to be, as a rat, part of bringing down a human smuggling organization, and several grow houses. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about marijuana anymore. Nobody cares. But anyways, the feds did. But yeah, he was undercover. Thank you. I appreciate you, Trina. Says you're doing a great job for freedom. I appreciate you. I'm working hard. I'm working hard on it. So that's Enrique Tarrio before politics. That's 30 months and for 3 years of his life in prison. A cooperator, which I'm sure his jail time is wonderful now. I mean, because they love cooperators in prison. They really do. I mean, I think they have like a big party every year for the child molesters and the cooperators. G.R. Johnson says, shout out from South Texas. You, sir, Paul, are truly the shining lone star in our state during these troubled times. Well, I appreciate that, my friend. I try. And we are going to move forward. We are going to get it in gear, folks. We've got an election coming up in November. We have got an election coming up next November that is going to change the world. Let me tell you, to our international audience, the November 2024 election, you are going to see America, the one that we're proud of, the one that behaves like a good global citizen. We're back, baby. We're back. The November 2024 election, I am working my ass off to get people out, to get people to the polls so that they understand the importance of it and they get out and vote, folks. You watch. You watch us. You watch us work. You watch us work. But anyways, back to Enrique Tarrio. So we've got a rat. That's what we got. And he goes on after going to jail. He goes to works on a chicken poultry farm, then comes back to Miami, and he goes to a political rally for this guy. You may recognize him. On the right, named Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo. For those of you that don't know Milo, he he was involved with Kanye West for a while. When Kanye West had his Nazi meltdown, he was palling around with Milo Yiannopoulos. Makes sense. Well, back in the day, he used to write for an organization called Breitbart. And I have to tell you, this is where we start talking about the corporate media and them giving credibility to people that it should have never, ever happened. So Milo is having a political rally in Miami back in 2017, way back in the day when people actually paid attention to what the hell Milo had to say. Milo was he was gay, but he was anti-gay. Go figure. Oh, and by the way, I want to draw attention to the fact that I've left the producer's stand up for this show. She's in the room, but we don't have to worry about losing power anymore. Again, you folks supportive of the show. We've got a new battery in the laptop. I told you, I don't waste your money. I appreciate the help. She can kick that power cord all day long. We're going to be fine. That was a disaster the other day, wasn't it? Anyway, so we got Milo. He goes down to Miami to have one of his rallies back in the heyday of Milo. Now, Milo is the kind of guy that, I mean, you got to understand, he talked about pedophilia is okay. perfectly natural for a 13-year-old boy to have a consensual relationship with a grown ass man. He said that. I'm not even kidding. Talked about people should shoot journalists, that kind of thing. I mean, it is real winner right there. Real winner right there. And after Milo's collapse, you know, all of his anti LGBTQIA nonsense and all the insane things he said. I mean, what happens to a guy like that? Oh, yeah, he goes to work in Marjorie Trader Greene's office. I'm not even kidding, folks. I am not even kidding. He went to work as an intern for Marjorie Trader Greene, um, because he had nowhere else to go. Nobody was listening to the guy. But back in the day, oh, by the way, he took one of her credit cards back, during the whole Kanye thing. He saw Kanye as his way back. So he really glammed on to Kanye. Milo really glammed on to Kanye. And he took a credit card from Marjorie Trader Greene's office and used it to book a room to hold like his Kanye meetings. So yeah, he stole from Marjorie Trader Greene, the elevator flatulator. I mean, just these people, right? So back in 2017, when people listen to Milo because the mainstream media are idiots, and he's riding high on his Breitbart nonsense, a guy by the name of Henry Tarrio volunteers at one of his Milo spectacle rallies. And that's when it all really begins, folks. Thank you for the support, Benno Loco. I'm so glad you're always here. I'm so glad to always have you here. Just because I'm cleaning the garage and not in the chat doesn't mean I'm not going to remind y'all to hit the thumbs up. I appreciate you. Always taking care of business. I appreciate you. Yes, please hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Anyways, we're on a time crunch. I got to get moving. I'm sorry about that. Get distracted easily today. There's so much going on. And I appreciate you, Benno Loco. I really do. But back to where we were. There's this Milo rally going on in Miami, and there you got, fresh out of prison Enrique Tarrio volunteering down there. And he meets a Proud Boy. And the Proud Boy introduces him, says, hey, you ought to join. You ought to join. Peter Campbell says, pay heed, MAGA. This too may be your fate. Putin has demolished and covered over the graves of the Wagner Group. Putin will attempt to erase them from Russian history. MAGA is no different. That is true. When they're done with you, and we're going to get there, and that's the point of where we're going with this. So he meets a Proud Boy at this Milo rally, and that guy introduces him to this winner, the Canadian, by the name of Gavin McInnes. He looks like a cartoon clown, doesn't he? He's a little guy too. I mean, he's tiny. Gavin McInnes is tiny. The media always does this thing when they interview him. They do these like tied up shots on him so that he looks, like tough guy and this, that, and the other. Well, Gavin McInnes, he started out playing some punk rock music, and then he went on to be one of the bros that founded Vice, Vice News. He was one of those guys, and then he left because they decided when it started to take off that they needed to quit being jackass buttheads and actually try to run a news organization. Didn't work. Didn't work. He they ended up having a bunch of scandals at Vice. They couldn't stop being bros. Sherry Foster says, this goes to keep the lights on, keep texting. I sure appreciate you. I sure appreciate you, Sherry. I really do. But anyways, he meets Gavin McGinnis, and I want you to just kind of pay attention to the timeline here, right? In 2017, March of 2017, he meets Milo. I mean, pardon me, he's volunteering for Milo and meets a Proud Boy. Then he gets introduced to Gavin McGinnis, who's the founder of the Proud Boys, which is just, I mean, this guy is just sick. I'm sick. Literally, and I'm not kidding, folks. The guy, to prove he doesn't hate gay people, in a video, shoved a sex toy up his butt. No, I'm not going to show you that. No, you can Google it and find it. It's out there. I mean, McGinnis is, he's nuts. He's nuts. So Tarrio goes on that same year to attend a little soiree in Charlottesville. Gets even more radicalized. Y'all remember the Tiki Torch Brigade? That Tarrio was part of that. It was at the Unite the Right rally. And folks, this is where I want to talk about missed opportunities. You know, there was this whole thing with the police and their right-wing darlings. You know, they didn't crack down on the Unite the Right rally. They didn't. You know, find people on both sides, you know. Well, Enrique Tarrio was there getting radicalized. And he was meeting all these other white supremacy groups, you know. He's making his way up. Making his way up. I got to find one of my images I accidentally deleted. Hang with me for a second. All right, I got it. So, still in 2017, he goes to the Unite the Right rally. By 2018, the end of 2018, Enrique Henry Tarrio is running the Proud Boys. He meets his first Proud Boy in March of 2017. And by 2018, he's running the Proud Boys. Now, I want you to understand. I mean, I want you to think about that as these are people, the real people. This isn't just TV. This isn't a television show. This isn't, I appreciate you, Ernie's mom. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the support. Um, I, I want you to think about that. I mean, really, let it just juice in. I mean, that's how screwed up an organization this is. I mean, a guy that gets first introduced, he's not even a member, in March of 2017, is running the organization by mid 2018. I mean, it's a clown show. It's a joke. But think about what you see on the media and how they talk about him. You know, I was part of the coverage for the Midas Touch Network for the January 6th insurrection, and I kept telling people, stop focusing on the Proud Boys. They're street thugs. They're idiots. They're not the dangerous ones. This is why. I mean, they were so disorganized and disheveled that Enrique Henry Tarrio, you know, the thief, petty thief, thug, ends up being the head of their organization. And that's all they are, street thugs. The biggest thing that they had done, after Enrique Tarrio takes over, is they held a rally for this guy. This is Andy No. Andy No is a right wing troll and provocateur. He got his ass beat by Antifa because what Andy No did, he fancied himself a journalist, but he was like that Project Veritas garbage where they show you edited stuff. And he would team up with these right wing provocateurs and they would go to peaceful rallies and they would agitate. And Andy No would be waiting there with his camera and they would agitate, they would push people, they would get violent and this, that, and the other. When people reacted, that's when Andy No started filming. And then he would write these yellow journalistic BS online screeds about how violent the left is. And Antifa got tired of it. They did. The regulars that were there, he would show up to the rallies and agitate, and they beat the living dog snot out of him. They did. They were found guilty. He eventually sued the people that beat the crap out of him. But the biggest thing, and the way this ties into Enrique Tarrio, is Enrique Tarrio held a rally for this guy in Portland. I mean, that's it. That's the biggest thing that the Proud Boys did. That's it. I mean, they were inconsequential. So what do you, how do they end up being where we are? Midas DW says for new boxing gloves to punch the Nazis. Love you. Thank you. I appreciate the support. I do. I appreciate you. I really do. $20 is a lot of money and I really appreciate it. But how did we get there? How did this happen? Well, this is how it happened. On Rolling Stone, God bless him, did a great story on this. The mainstream media portrayed Andy No as a victim. They called him a journalist and they defended him when he was a right-wing troll and provocateur. And they made a big deal about it. And they talked about, they both sides everything. No, there isn't both sides. There isn't both sides. Andy No got his butt beat because there was violence going on incited by the right. And he got caught up in it. And then the corporate media defended this guy because they're, we can't have violence against journalists. He's not a journalist. He's an agitator. He's worse than an agitator. He's a mouthpiece for agitators. And Enrique Tarrio went from Miami to Portland with Joe Biggs, and they held a rally for this guy. That's as dangerous as they were. So what changed? Well, Gavin McInnes introduced him to somebody. And this was like straight heroin. Gavin McInnes introduced Enrique Tarrio to Steve Bannon. Also of Breitbart, by the way. And not just Steve Bannon. He introduced him to the Hungarian hound dog, the man of Musk, Seb Gorka, the pretend doctor. You may recognize these faces. This was it. This was the cocaine. This was the heroin. This is what elevated the Proud Boys into what they are today. Because Steve Bannon had a use for them. And believe me, the corporate media was more than happy to have drama. So they took a bunch of disorganized, dumbass white supremacists and they started talking about them like they were this well organized organization. They weren't. They weren't capable of really doing anything. But that didn't stop the mainstream media from portraying them like they were, and that's how we end up with the Proud Boys at January 6th with their walkie-talkies, pretending to be something they're not, attacking our democracy. That's how they got injected into this politics. That's how they ended up where they are. That is how Enrique Tarrio, and I'm sure his mother is so proud today, is about to get sentenced. He's gonna spend the next quarter century in a federal prison. And it went from 2017, a Milo Yiannopoulos rally of all things, to the insurrection, January 6th, 2021. That short period of time. And that's what I wanna share with you folks is that's the danger of what the corporate media does. I can't rail against it hard enough. This did not happen in a vacuum. Left to its own devices, he'd just be some tired old man in Miami running his mouth. That would have been it. But the media was more than happy to have the drama. They were more than happy to give credence to what Trump and his circle of people spread, to consider it a counter argument, which it isn't. It isn't. It isn't a counterpoint. There is no both sidism. We're not the same. We're not the same. Democrats are better people. We're better at running government. We're the only party available right now that actually does run government. You know, folks, this is why, and I'm going to self promote here for a second, and I apologize, but this is why you have to get these messages out. This is why we have to grow our audience. We have almost 1,700 people watching live today. That's a new record. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're here. Nowhere on social, or nowhere in the corporate media are they going to tell you none of this happens. None of this happens without the interjection of the social media's drama chasing. I mean, the corporate media's drama chasing. You're just not going to see it anywhere. To get this message out, you've got to do it, folks. I need you to share this video. I need you to tell people about this. Bring people in. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It's all the difference in the world. This is what I do, folks. This is what I do. I'm a political activist. I'm a political strategist. I'm a commentator. I get out there. I'm getting people to the polls. This is one of the vehicles, one of the most important vehicles we do it, folks. And I hope you can see what I've laid out for you, why it is so important. Because if there had been more of this and more of the talk about these people from folks like me that were telling you these are clowns, we probably wouldn't have had a January 6th. You know, that whole January 6th thing was based on momentum of mouth. Momentum of the mouth that finally led to violence. We saw that in the Jacksonville shooting. 21-year-old dumbass down there listening to word of mouth. And now 3 people are dead. Snow Leopard says, I never miss Texas Paul. If I can help it, he shines a light on the darkness. I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate you. And to do exactly that, shine the light on the darkness. This is in your hands. We can do this. I'm not sad today. I'm not. I'm happy. It's taken a long time for the wheels of justice to turn. But Enrique Tarrio, he may get a skip today because the judge, wasn't feeling well or something, but he is going to prison, folks. That's where this story ends. He is going to prison. Trump is going to prison. We are going to run Republicans out of government. They're done. I'm going to take that picture of Greg Abbott and Joe Biggs into the next election cycle, and I promise you, I am not going to let them walk away from their associations. I am not. And we're going to do this. We're going to do this. November 2024, we take full control of our government back. The only question is how much of a change do you folks make? That's the question. How much of a difference does that make? Do you folks make? True Tech says, lock up the clockwork orange. I love that, my friend. I love that. I love it. But that's what we're looking at, people. That's where we're at. The momentum is at our back. We're moving forward. These people are going to prison. Jimmy Jordan and his little BS and Comer and all of that, they can try. Kevin McCarthy comes out and says he's going to he's going to impeach Joe Biden. So what? Do it. Do it. And I'm sure the Democratic controlled Senate will be more than happy to set up a show trial so that you can stand up there and get humiliated because in your own committees that you control, you've provided nothing. Nothing. You've humiliated yourself over and over and over again. And I am more than happy to see you impeach Joe Biden. Do it. Do that. Give me that on top of the Trump trials that are going to go on all next year leading into the election. Yes, you hold your impeachment trial and your humiliation that will come from that because you have nothing. You have proven nothing. All you've done is walk around showing people Hunter Biden's dick pics. That's it. Yes, please. Give the Democratic controlled Senate control of that trial. Amen. And that's what we're looking at, folks. There's a lot of people that they say they'll try to scare you. I'm not going to do that. I know fear is a great motivator, but you don't have to be afraid. All you got to do is show up. If you show up, and I'm talking about you individually, if you individually show up, we end the Republican Party in this next election. We end them. And we're talking about Joe Biden and negotiating drugs on Medicare. That no longer gets slow rolled out. That doesn't get slow rolled anymore. We just run it through the way it should be. I appreciate you, James Edwards. I appreciate the support, my friend. I really do. But we have some more news. Jennifer Rubin did an amazing job breaking this down. We're short on time, so I've got to make a hard turn on you. Mark Meadows testified. He just had his hearing day before yesterday on Monday, trying to get his trial federalized. He did himself no favors. It's not going to happen. He presented no witnesses in his support. None. And then he did the one thing every attorney tells you never to do. He took the stand. And I cannot believe that his attorney allowed him to do that. He waived his Fifth Amendment protections and sat on the stand for 5 hours and buried himself. Buried himself. He poured gasoline on himself and lit himself on fire because the prosecutor was able to get him over and over and over again to say for the record that yes, he coordinated campaign phone calls. He sent letters on behalf of the campaign, the Trump campaign, uh, to officials in Georgia to ask them to speed up the they were doing signature check audit. He sent a letter down to him, said, "Hurry that up. The Trump campaign needs that. They need that. It's part of their challenge." As part of court record, he no longer has to testify to that. Everything that he said, they can now just pull up the court record and say, here it is. He said this. This is what happened. So not only is his case not going to be federalized, he just gave away the store under oath. Under oath for 5 hours. I mean, I mean, again, think about this in a human, real, not looking at a screen. This is just think about yourself as Mark Meadows. Think about yourself sitting in that chair, in that box, and standing in front of you is a professional prosecutor. And you talk to her for 5 hours. Think about the damage he did to himself. This is so over, folks. This is so done. And I have to tell you, Trump is sitting here watching the sentencing of these Proud Boys, and he's seeing these people go to jail for a quarter freaking. They are. Enrique Tarrio will be in his 60s when he leaves federal prison. So, folks, we're down to just a few minutes. We've got the Tony Michaels show coming up. I apologize. I went along on the Enrique Tarrio stuff, but I tell you, it just fascinates me. It just absolutely fascinates me. The human, when you look at it from the human side and who they are and how they got where they are, it just makes this whole thing just. Sometimes I just sit and say, wow. I mean, wow. Can you imagine? I mean, the next quarter century of Enrique Tarrio's of Henry Tarrio is what his mother calls him. He's going to be in prison, and he deserves it. He earns it. What a quick trip from a Milo rally in Miami to the federal pen. So, folks, if you got any questions or any comments or other, let's shoot them out there. We've only got 2 or 3 minutes left. Let's find some good ones. Could Meadows have a pardon? That would explain what he took. No, it's a state charge. Pardon won't help him. There's a pardon board in Georgia. The governor can't pardon him. The pardon board in Georgia would have to recommend that he be pardoned, and that takes a long time. He'll be done with his jail time before that pardon board gets him a pardon. That was a good comment, by the way. Stardusher says Michael Cohen said nothing happened in the Trump conspiracy without his permission. He wanted to run the government the same way. Yeah, he did run the government the same way. And thank God he had attorneys like Cheese Bro that put everything in a memo. I mean, Cheese Bro wrote a memo Cheesebro wrote a memo that said, the folks in Arizona are really worried that because this is illegal, they're really getting nervous. It'd be nice if we had a court challenge or something to back this up. He wrote that down and circulated it to everybody. These are the worst criminals ever. Thanks for the support, Deanne. Thank you again, Benaloco. I appreciate all the support. I really do. I really do. So as soon as we find out something, I will put it out on my social media. We'll find out what happened, what delayed the sentencing hearing today. I'll let you know, folks. I will let you know. I'll update you on Sunday because it's not going to be delayed for very long. All right, folks. It is 10:59. We've got Tony coming up. We've got Hal coming up. Where are my sparklers? Where's my Tony fam at? Let me see you in the chat. I want you to get fired up. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Keep it rolling. Keep the energy rolling. Remember what I said. Remember what I said. We've got this. We have got this. Best case scenario, they're going to nominate a loser in 2024 that's going to have no coattails. And as long as you show up, we get to build the country that we want to build. All of this hatefulness, all this nastiness is going to be behind us. There's always going to be white supremacists in the shadows and stuff, but they're going to be back like cockroaches hiding in the back of the cupboard. And you're doing it, folks. God bless you. And thank you for being here with me. Old Texas Paul out. Y'all have a great day.